Hello, everybody, and welcome to this SAG-AFTRA Foundation Conversation at Home. I'm Dave Karger from Turner Classic Movies. Before I bring on our special guest, my friends at the SAG-AFTRA Foundation want you all to know that they have a COVID-19 relief fund to support SAG-AFTRA performers who are in urgent need as this pandemic continues. Since March of 2020, the foundation has given nearly $6 million in aid to over 6,300 performers and families who are facing extreme hardship. If you are a SAG-AFTRA member and you need help, please ask. And if you're able to help support the community and this crucial effort, please give. Information can be found in the description of this video. Now, I am very happy to introduce our special guest today, one of the stars of the new movie, The Prom on Netflix, James Corden. Hello, James. How are you?
Very good, Dave. How are you?
I'm great. It's great to see you.
It's nice
it's funny. I'm thinking about you doing press, you doing interviews after all of these years where you've been on the other side interviewing everybody else on the Late Late Show. What are these press tours and these interviews like for you now to be on the other side?
Well, I mean, this one in particular, because of just, the year has been quite strange. Sitting in I'm right now in the basement of my house, and it's my biggest fear is what is the background. And so I don't really know what I've gone for here. All I can tell you is this plant is really on its last legs. And I really only when I've seen these curtains on this Zoom, I think the fabric is quite odd. But other than that, look, I think it's harder asking the questions. I think your job in this is far harder than mine. So I quite enjoy the fact that, because I know that all I'm thinking about now is what I'm telling you, but you're thinking in your head, well, where do I go now after this? I have to remember to talk about that. And you're conscious of time and all of those things, which I'm not. So I'm quite relaxed in this environment. I think no one quite, what I'm saying to you is I understand the pressure of being the interviewer, and I think there's far less pressure on the interviewee.
Interesting. A bit of an obvious question that I'm sure you've answered many times as you've been doing interviews for this. You mainly live in LA, but you also are such a Broadway theater guy. I hope you saw The Prom on Broadway. You have the chance to see it?
I did, yes. I saw it, and I saw it after Ryan had, I think, started putting the wheels in motion to make the show, and he called me and said, if you can get to New York to see it, that would be great. And I need no excuse to go to Broadway and watch a live show anyway. So, and I loved it. I loved it. We had a lot of long conversations afterwards about the role and taking it on and doing the show and moving it to film and things. And I think at that point, Meryl had agreed. Nicole, I think, had just agreed but hadn't seen it yet, or had just seen it but was about to agree, and that was all I really knew at that point. And yeah, it was a strange experience watching it live, thinking, oh, there's a chance that I might play this role. It felt strange. It felt kind of an odd experience, if I'm honest. Yeah, but I loved the show. I loved it so much. I loved the message of it, the joy of it, the positivity of it. I found it just kind of washes over you in the whole show. The feeling in the auditorium, the day that I saw it was magic. It really was. It was magic.
Were there people who came on after you, whether it's Keegan-Michael Key or Andrew Rannells or anyone who you were particularly excited about, since you're saying Meryl and Nicole were already in the conversation beforehand?
Well, everyone really. I mean, I love actors. I think they are the best company. It's quite an interesting thing. I always think, so kind of talking about what we were talking about before, when I do my show, I sometimes, when I go and see, when we used to have guests in the studio, I would go and see them in dressing rooms before the show. And we've done, I think, almost 900 shows now. So that's a lot of actors to be meeting. And it's quite funny. I often think, they'd be the sort of person that I'd hang out with on set. Like, they're fun, and I think pretty much the entire cast has come through the doors of our show. And so, yeah, Keegan, I absolutely I love and adore. And Andrew before I went to New York, with a play called One Man, Two Governors. And Andrew was coming to the end of his run of Book of Mormon. But I had watched his Tony's performance of I Believe. And this isn't an exaggeration. I might have watched it 50 times. Like and so as soon as I heard he was on, I was like, oh my God, this is great. And then you just keep hearing about these two young girls that have been cast. And Ariana I was aware of because I'd seen Hamilton and things. But then I kept hearing about this girl, Jo Ellen Pellman, and I was so blown away by their talent. It was intoxicating, actually, watching them. I said to Jo Ellen, we rehearsed a scene which is she and I in a diner talking, and I said I just know that I'm gonna tell people for the rest of my life that I was in your first movie. And I stand by that completely after watching the film. So in terms of working with a cast of people, it was an extraordinary group to mix with, for sure.
What did you like the most about the character of Barry when you saw the show? And what did you like most about playing him?
Well, I loved his sort of joy and his optimism. I think I loved his put downs. I thought the jokes were terrific. And I have to really mention Brooks Asmankas, who played it on Broadway, who really, he built this character, no question. He built the character, and I was just very fortunate to walk in those shoes for this new reimagining of it. But I mean, so much of the way that he's written to have lines written about, losing quite a lot of money from a self-produced production of Notes on a Scandal, or, I'm gay as a bucket of wigs, or asking why Eleanor didn't work. Was it the hip hop? Like, there's so many great lines. And then what Ryan added, what he brought to it really was just this depth, really. And for the first hour of the film, he can feel quite two-dimensional in a way. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but as a character, you think, what he is, and then really, as you start to just scratch away at who he is and what his life's been, those were the moments that I found incredibly moving, and I will always be proud of the scenes. Like myself and Meryl in the hotel room is, as a filming experience, just something I'll never ever forget. And then the scene at the end with Tracy Ullman, it weighted the character. It weighted the character, which I think you need to do in a film, perhaps more than on a stage where you're very conscious of playing to the person who's 1,800 seats away in the balcony. You have to play it out. And that is so much what the first hour of the film is about. But when it grounded, when it came back down, it was really those are the things which I really enjoyed in the script, and they scared me and excited me in equal measure.
Yeah, that's one thing I was thinking about when I was watching it and focusing on your performance, knowing that I was going to be talking to you. Obviously you're a Tony-winning actor for One Man, Two Governors, and 6 of your 10 Emmys are for basically singing, with carpool karaoke. But this, I feel like, stretched you in ways that I would love to hear you tell me how you felt this stretched you.
Well, it all stretched me in truth. The entire character. There's many similarities between Barry and myself, but there's really not many. It's funny, when I had a conversation with Ryan about it, and I had some reticence or reservations perhaps about joining it for a variety of different reasons, and he really said to me, where are you going to get a part where you get to sing, dance, do jokes, and cry. He said, let's make a film where you sing, dance, make us laugh and make us cry. And I was like, okay, but you're going to have to really guide me through this. I'm going to need your help every step of the way on this, really. And anyone that knows Ryan would know that he's so true to his word. And those scenes in particular, it's funny, you know, I think lots of actors think for quite a long time, oh, I'm capable of so much more. I can do more. I've got more to give. I wish they could see that I could do this. And then when scenes come along where you do have to go there, you suddenly go, oh, well, what if you can't, you know? And then the added pressure of sharing those scenes with Meryl Streep. So, I'm very proud of them. I'm very proud of them, the honesty of it, the truth of it, the rawness of it, and that's all I really was conscious of doing the whole way, really, with the whole character, to just try as much as you can within the world of a big, expansive, lush musical, where you're breaking out into song in shopping malls and New York streets and school halls and things, to just really try to drill down to the truth of him, certainly in the latter part of the film. Yeah.
It's so powerful when we do hear and see Barry telling his story and sharing his experience as a child. I was wondering what you used as an inspiration, you know, when you were kind of preparing to do those moments in particular.
Well, I think anyone really, and you look back to your time at school, has experienced feelings of rejection, fear, loneliness, absolutely. That, you know, there's something happens in those latter years of school when I think back to school, I sort of feel like it was so joyful until I was sort of 13 or 14, and then somehow just people change. I changed. We all changed. You know, you're dealing with a lot of hormones and all those things and stuff. And so I certainly associate with all of the feelings of unrequited love and confusion and not knowing perhaps if your path is the right one, you know, that Barry has, or feeling like you have something that might be particular to you, that you're feeling something that's particular to you and there's no one around you that would understand. I certainly associate with that. So it's only really now, as I say it, that I imagine those are the things I was drawing on. I think that probably is the case. Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you either saw or tried on the blue sparkly jacket? Did it just instantly make you want to dance?
Well, it all makes you want to dance. You can't stop me singing and dancing, really. So it's irrespective of clothing. Like, the entire experience of making musicals, I think is just so wondrous. I think it's just so beautiful. And I'm really, and all of those things I was really excited to jump into. But the costumes in the film are incredible. I think the camera work is gorgeous, and the color palette of it is so lush. It almost feels to me like a sort of harking back to a kind of studio system movie in a way, you know, like in its cast and tone and scope and scale. I feel there will never be a moment that I won't be proud to be part of it. For sure.
I don't know off the top of my head how often you've been asked to do an American accent. Was there someone that you were listening to in order to get the accent down, or is it just something that's kind of in your arsenal and already?
No, in truth, that was my biggest fear with all of it, actually. It was my absolute biggest fear, and I owe a lot to a brilliant voice coach called Liz Hemmelstein, who Nicole Kidman works with quite a lot, and so she then became my dialect coach, and really I probably started a good 2-3 months before. We would go through the whole script at a time, the whole time, make notes of things and certain parlances, because I really was very, very conscious of getting it right. I couldn't. I was so terrified, and there was no way in the world that the character could be British, because Britain doesn't have proms in their school. We never have prom when I'm growing up, so that was just that was a dead end. I know, that was it. And so the challenge of it for me was something that was so exciting, and it was hard. I did find it difficult doing that, the accent, the song, the dances, the things, and then going to do my show in the evening. Like that would be that. Sometimes, if I'm honest, it started to kind of fry my mind a little. But I just always feel like I would rather regret doing something than not doing something. And how could I pass up such an opportunity? But in terms of the accent, I hope it's okay. I hope it is. I certainly really tried. I really tried my best.
I found it very believable, very convincing.
Thanks, man.
What was it like for you when you read the script for the first time, or maybe an early table read, to really come to terms with the fact that Meryl Streep was going to be straddling you and saying, "I love you"?
Well, this is the second movie musical I've had to carry her through. So, no, I mean, I don't even know if that was in the script, the jumping part, the straddling part. I think we figured that out in the rehearsing of it. I'm really pretty sure that wasn't there. A lot of that scene really was flowed in the most sort of glorious way. And Meryl and I sort of started talking about it. Well, we talked about it at the very start, about how we both felt like this scene is a turning point in both of these characters' lives. The film makes lots of turns, but in terms of these two as characters, this is a moment that we think turns them away perhaps from who we first saw at the start of the film. And we talked about that quite a bit, and because it was a long scene too. I think in the script it was kind of 5 or 6 pages, I think, and there's been some cuts made in the final edit, but we just went through it. But basically, it was one of those kind of perfect days where we turned up for a filming day, and it was just me, Meryl, and Ryan, and no crew. The crew were called later, which we didn't know, and we just probably spent a good 3 hours just rehearsing it and plotting it and blocking it out. And that was a joy for me. It was an absolute joy. And I think they're the days I probably treasure the most.
Oh, so great. You definitely got to see many different sides of her, working so closely with her. I'm sure, we as viewers get to see different sides of her, but I imagine for you, that must have been a fascinating experience.
Look, I wish I could give you some story like the person that you think she is. But she is extraordinary, and anything look, there's nothing I can say about her as a performer that hasn't already been said, and is bang on right. What the truth is, it's who she is as a person and what she represents within the world of a film set, which I think is the most inspiring thing to be around. She sets the tone for every person on that film. Like, she knows how you feel, or how people feel when they walk into a rehearsal room the first time you're meeting her. She knows how you feel, and she does everything she can to put you at ease in a way. And she takes the work incredibly seriously and doesn't take herself seriously for a second. And so that makes her the greatest fun to hang around on. And I haven't done many films of this sort of scale and size, but I imagine, or so I've heard on films like this, when you have a 40-minute break when they're relighting something, that people go off to their trailers and disappear. And Meryl just pitches up on it with a chair on the corner of the set. And so therefore, that's where the cast congregates. And that's how you end up with this feeling on both of the jobs that I've done with her, that I'm actually part of a company. We're part of a company, and we're all playing dress up, and if we don't enjoy this, then it really is a waste of time. Yeah. And I would I would swim back to London for the opportunity to just spend a day filming with her again.
I mean, as you're mentioning, you've done, several big movie musicals already. We've all heard you sing in the driver's seat, many, many times, but this is different. I mean, some of the stuff that you're asked to do as Barry, I mean, this is real proper singing. Did you feel like you already had that singing range, those singing skills before starting this, or was that something you really had to work on with a coach?
I think I felt like I could, that it was in my sort of range to sing. It was a joy recording all the songs, and I think very little of the film is sung live on screen. So there's a sort of comfort in that, where you realize that you can do it again in a studio and stuff. So, but like my first ever job when I left, so I was 17, and was a musical in the West End. And ever since then, really, I've always just loved musicals. I love singing. I love the fantasy of it. I love the escape of it.
What is your recollection, not that it was that long ago, of having to stop the production of this because of the pandemic, and then coming back for just, I think, a handful of days? Was some of that your stuff that came back later, or were you done?
No, I had actually wrapped all my stuff. There was potentially a scene that was going to be added, which is now actually just a song on the end credits, which is called "Love Is Love," which was originally, there was a thought. It never really got written. It was an idea that came halfway through shooting, and that perhaps there was a moment for this song in the film. The lyrics are beautiful. It's the chorus is, "Love is simply love. There's no judgment and no shame. The only thing to understand is that all of our hearts beat the same." And it's a gorgeous song. So there was talk that perhaps that would go in, and that I would go back for a day. But I think in that time of lockdown, Ryan really looked at the film and felt like it absolutely didn't need or require another song, which I completely agree with. Like when I saw the cut, he was saying, "Do you think it needs it?" And I said, "I really don't. I think by that point in the film, you're either with it or you're not, So I didn't, the only thing that was strange was you didn't really get that moment of like, that's a wrap. Right. You think you're coming, you think you might be coming back, and then it's not. And then, and I think they did it incredibly well to get back and running and get it on. And, we started shooting in December, and we finished in the end of March, and really, I think the production got shut down about 3 days after I'd done what was now my last day.
Got it. As a result, when you watch this film, in addition to the thematic layers of acceptance and living your truth and all of those great messages, it also plays like a very bittersweet love letter to Broadway. What was it like for you, months after wrapping, then to see the finished cut in the midst of everything that we're going through? Did those extra layers come through in your mind too?
I think anyone that's worked in the theatre in any capacity, those thoughts have been there ever since kind of lockdown happened. It makes me so sad when I think of the friends of mine that are, it's gone. It's gone, and look, I believe so certainly that it will come back in a. I hope so much. I cling on to this feeling that it will come back in a kind of glorious, roaring 20s. And that's what you have to kind of really check yourself with, in a way where I sort of think any problems I've got, any things that I worry about, any anxiety that's in me right now is nothing compared to these incredible performers and stage managers and costume designers and dressers and hair and makeup designers and musicians and stage hands, and that have just had their world just, when you only have to work on Broadway or work in the West End or work at the National Theatre for a day to realize that these are some of the most talented people on planet Earth. On planet Earth, like, it's all well and good. I will never ever stop saying that. I don't think the gifts in that community are celebrated enough, are lauded enough. What they're physically doing 8 times a week, all of them, the front of house, front of stage, backstage. It is a grind doing it, and it's not like you're doing it in a grind, but you're going to get $1 million at the end of the run. Like, it is the love and the joy for the art of it is infectious, and I would do anything I could to try to help that community of people, because my God, we're going to need them the other side of this. Yeah.
Well, I know there's a lot of people that would love to see you back there.
That would be great. Nothing would make me happier. That's really the culmination of all of my dreams, really. Anything that's happened subsequently in my career, this film, this talk show I'm doing, my entire goal was just to work in the West End, to do a play at the National Theatre, to work on Broadway. That was it,
Amazing. One question I like to ask people who are involved in a film that has like a really cool, big, sprawling cast. And as you're saying, because of your job, a lot of these people that you're in this movie with, you knew already. But is there a friendship that developed amongst two people in this cast, whether it's you and someone else or two other people that maybe didn't know each other that well, that has really come out of this movie?
I think there's been a lot of friendships. I think there's been a lot of friendships. I spoke to Andrew 2 days ago. I spoke to Joe Ellen yesterday. I spoke to Meryl on Monday. Nicole checks in and calls, which is glorious to hear from. I think there's been a lot of true friendships. Ariana and Keegan are working on another project together now. I saw an interview that Meryl gave where she said she felt like this film changed her life. And I know what she means. I know what she means because it was without drama. That was the greatest thing about it. Like, film sets, sometimes creative atmospheres, spaces, there's a lack of time. You're trying to get something done. And sometimes there's drama. There's drama happens. This was so gloriously joyful. From minute one to now, this moment now, like, I've never felt so supported by a group of people, by a company of people, certainly by a director. Never felt a director kind of really put his arm around me and say, I'm going to go together. We will guide ourselves through this character and figure it out. Which, when your director is from Ohio, is from Indiana, and didn't attend his prom, and is a out proud gay man, I couldn't have done it without that. So I think these are friendships that I will treasure and carry for the rest of my life. I think I really do mean that. I know that sounds unbelievable in a sense, but I genuinely do believe that this company of people will forever be connected by the experience that we had making this film.
That's so great. Let me ask you a couple last things before I let you go.
Sure.
I love the moment in the movie where Meryl's character brings her Tonys to the hotel and puts them down on the counter in hopes of getting a suite that doesn't exist.
Yes.
What is something that you would put your Tony on a counter to try to get?
Oh, I mean, it probably would be food. It would be food based. I don't know what kind, but if you get me at the right level of sort of hangry, I'll really trade anything. So it might be that. I don't know. It could be.
What has a more prominent spot in your home? your 10 Emmys or the Tony?
I don't have any of them here. My Tony Award is in a storage facility in London, and the Emmys that we have are in a cupboard at work, and then the BAFTAs and things that I want to have there. One of them's here because it got sent here for something I did a couple of years ago. The others are in. This is a terrible conversation. It's a terrible thing. My point is, I don't think they're necessarily good things to have around you. I think it's really important to not really look back. Maybe one day when this is all over, which might be in a week, when maybe then I'll look at things that I've done and think about my 12-year-old self and how this would have blown his mind. But right now, I don't think they're that pretty to look at. I don't think they're that beautiful, a lot of them. And I think I don't think it's good to start to think that you might be more of a dude than you actually are. And I fear that could happen to someone such as I in a moment like that, Okay. I do.
That's interesting, because at first I'm like, wow, your Tony shouldn't be like locked away in some storage unit where you can't see it. And why can't it be out to serve as inspiration for you to do even greater work? But
because I think it's really important. I do think it's an interesting thing. I think it's really important to understand the doing of the thing is the prize. The doing of it is the gift. And I think sometimes in our industry, which is sort of seemingly consumed with power lists and money lists and award seasons and all these things, you can really start to lose sight of perhaps what it was that you were ever doing. Opening weekends, streaming numbers. And I think it's really important to remember the doing of it is the thing. The doing of it's the prize. Everything else is a sprinkling of kind of delicious dust, but you can't make it more than that. Because I think that, if you make it about those things, then you're really moving yourself into an unhealthy headspace. I think you've got to remember, if you're an actor and you're acting and you're fed and clothed and warm and secure, then you are amongst the single most successful actors on earth. And we all have to do it safe in the knowledge that the difference between an amateur and a professional really is just rejection. If I'm in the New York company of Into the Woods, I'm doing the same script, the same songs as the amateur production in upstate New York for the Connecticut Players or whatever. And the difference between the two is, now look, the costumes are better, the sets are better, the ability on the stage are probably more talented, almost certainly. But the biggest difference is these people, you can getting used to this rejection, and rejection is horrible in our industry. So then the worst thing you can do is get a job, do a job, be part of a job, and somehow it still be a disappointment because you didn't get this thing at the end. And I think the trick is just to go, the doing of it is great. I think recognizing great performances, recognizing talent, recognizing films and plays is wonderful. The notion of saluting these people, the 2 times I've done the Tony Awards, looking at that room, then seeing people enjoying this night at the end of a culmination of work is great. But you can't lose sight. You can't let it be the thing. The thing is the thing in front of you, and the doing of it. That's the biggest prize you can ever have, I think.
Well, let me finish by asking you, because you obviously watch a lot of stuff because you have these fabulous guests on your show every day.
Yeah.
What is something, a show or a film that you've seen lately that you want the world to know about? Because you love
this. I'm so pleased you asked this, Dave, because I'm going to name a show which I almost certainly you haven't seen. There's a show called Save Me on Peacock, and it's a show from Britain It's written and created by Lenny James, who is one of the most talented actors and writers you could ever see. And it's on Peacock, and both seasons are there now. They're just 2 seasons of 6 one-hour episodes. So you can do all 12 back to back. I defy you not to love it, and it should be recognized everywhere. It is, I think, a masterpiece in his performance, the plotting of the show, the execution of the show. Its depiction of South London is particularly brilliant. The entire cast are great. It's directed brilliantly, and I loved the first season. And then when I heard they were doing a second season, I was like, I wonder what this will be like. And they absolutely pulled it off. They pulled it off brilliantly. So Save Me on Peacock. That's my tip.
I imagine it makes you feel like you're at home since you can't be there.
It does. Yeah. Well, kind of. I watch quite a lot of British TV anyway, but this show, I have to tell you, I promise you will absolutely love it.
Okay, great. Well, that's a great tip. And we should also tell people they should watch The Prom featuring you, which is available on Netflix now.
Only if they want to.
So congratulations on that. And James, on behalf of the SAG-AFTRA Foundation, thank you so much for just sharing your time, sharing your experience.
Lovely to chat to you, Dave. I really appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Absolute pleasure. So, and thank you all for watching this, and hopefully we'll see you soon. Have a great day.